Welcome to the presentation of MechWorks PDM. Today we're going to just go over the basics of the MechWorks PDM integrated with SolidWorks. My name is Glenn and I will be your presenter today. Just a little bit about MechWorks. MechWorks is a PDM company with customers worldwide. We have been providing PDM since 1998. PDM is our total focus, allowing us to provide the best-in-class PDM. MechWorks allows for users to only enter data once, providing everyone with the needed data without retyping. It is a very configurable tool, allowing organizations to work the way they need to. So what are we going to look at today? Today we're going to create a brand new file or a new part with this drawing. We're going to look at the automatic numbering. We're going to do some revision control and life cycling to that new part. We're going to take a quick look at the engineering changes and workflows, as that is a separate webinar. We're going to take a look at the document relationships, how MechWorks PDM automatically links the documents together. We're going to look at outputs, how you can automatically create a PDF, DXF, or other file formats by configured triggers. We're going to go into the MechWorks PDM browser. We're going to look at that and see how MechWorks presents the information to the users in a clear graphical manner. We're going to look at the search tools, so find out how easy it is to find your existing documents. We're going to look at assembly duplication, and then we're going to move on to the bill of materials, how MechWorks PDM inherits the information from SolidWorks and then allows you to utilize that bill of material in ways that make sense in the real world. How you can control whether you buy or you make a part, whether you want the part on the bill of material or you don't. How you would connect that information to your ERP, MRP, SAP. We'll look at visual cues. Visual cues are a great way of visually sharing information very quickly with all the users. We're going to touch on configurations. We're not going to go into any great detail on those because, again, we have a separate webinar just on the configurations. But MechWorks PDM can provide full control of your configurations. We're going to look at and talk about the difference between an integrated license and a standalone license. The other key thing to remember with the MechWorks PDM is that we are a PDM company, which allows us to have partnerships with the CAD companies. So we have direct integrations with SolidWorks, DraftSight, Inventor, Solid Edge, AutoCAD, SpaceClaim, ME10, the Microsoft Office applications. But we can not only do those, we can accommodate all other file formats by associating the file extensions to the appropriate application. Okay, so let's get started here, and we're going to go into SolidWorks. Here we go. So now I have SolidWorks open here with the MechWorks PDM already integrated into SolidWorks. So now, for the purpose of this demonstration, as a user, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new part. And just like you normally would, we'll create that new part. I'm going to do something very simple. Here we go. That's good. Now we just add some depth to this. So there's our new part that we've created. So now, as usual, a user would just go ahead and save this the normal way. We're going to hit save. When the user hits save, the MechWorks PDM is going to present the automatic numbering format dialog. With this, you're going to see, or you can see on here, there are a variety of different formats that the administrator has created for the users on this system. Each one of these formats may have a different numbering system. Therefore, with MechWorks PDM, you can account and cover for all the different numbering schemas that you may have. Perhaps you have different numbering schemas based on customers, products, or whatever, or you just have the one numbering system. But with this, it will automatically give it the next number for this part, as well as saving it where IT wants the parts and the documents to be saved. So in this particular case, the user is going to pick with categories. Let's hit OK. The first thing is presented to the user is the Save Wizard or the Category Wizard. This is a way of dividing up your parts into categories. By using this, it has a couple of key advantages. The first one would be everybody follows the same criteria. It's going to give you standard part and file numbers and descriptions. For instance, in this particular case, the user would pick machined, nut, hex, hit OK. You'll see now it's going to give you this format information. It's going to give you the part number, and the top one here, it has been configured so that if needed, the user could change this. We're going to change that a little bit. The description in this particular format has been fixed. The user cannot change it. Again, I'm not going to go into much more detail on the automatic numbering because there is a separate webinar just on automatic numbering. Let's hit OK. So now the user is presented with the record card. The record card is totally configurable to meet the needs of your organization. But you can see here that it put that ID number and the description in here. It's going to show the user where the file is saved. And if I had properties in here like the material and such what, it would present that information to the users as they need to see it. Hit OK. So now what MechWorks PDM is doing for me as the user is it's checking this part out so I have ownership of this particular document. When a user has a document checked out to them, nobody else can change that document. Other people can look at that document, they can view it, they can get information from it, they could do a save as to create a new one, but obviously they're not allowed to change any document that somebody else has ownership of. So now I have the part, let's create the drawing. Just like normal, the user would go up here, make a drawing from the part. I'm going to pick a drawing template that has already been pre-configured with the areas designated for the properties that you want to be on that template to go to those places. Let's pick this one and hit OK. So here's the drawing template, and we'll just drop something in here real quick. There we go, and hit save. Now, as the user saves this drawing, MechWorks PDM is going to go create the record card, but it's going to look at the part that this drawing is automatically linked to and pull in the drawing ID or the drawing number, the description, and other relevant information that needs to be on this drawing template. So at this stage, let's go back to the part here. You can see we have the part and the drawing and they're linked together. So now, as a user, I have a choice. If this was the end of the day, I could just close everything down, leave it checked out to me, come back tomorrow and continue working on it. If I was going to win the lottery tonight, I know I'm not going to be in tomorrow. So I could check this in so somebody else could check it out and continue working on it. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to release these documents. It's quite simple. I go over to the document, the user would right mouse click and hit approve. Now, before I go ahead and say okay here, let's talk about the fact that every time you release a document, there is certain information that you always want with that document. With the MechWorks PDM, you can configure it so that if there are certain fields that you know needs to have information, it will not allow the document to be released. For instance, if I go here and hit OK, it's going to remind the user that they need to put a description in there for what they've just done as far as this revision 01. So we'll hit OK. So we'll go to revisions. The area that needs the information is going to be highlighted with this salmon colored. And in here, the user can type the information that they want to have. So we'll say, there we go, hit OK. Now, because the drawing is automatically linked to the part, that information has been put into the drawing's record card. We'll hit OK. And now that's going to release this at the revision 01 on this system. Now the revisioning schema can match whatever revisioning schema you have within your organization. If you just have a single revisioning schema, then that's all you need to have. And it could be numerical or alphabetical. On this system for the users, it has been configured so that the users have a choice of, in this case, staying as a pre-release or prototype release, revision 01, 02, 03, or, and if we go back here and we'll check this out again, here we go, you can see the user has a choice of keeping it in that prototype or pre-release sequence of 01 or advancing it to the major A release, which is your manufacturing release in this particular case for the users. There's also a sub-releases on those majors of 01, 02, 03, and it's just the way the system has been configured on this one. Let's hit OK. Now remember, with those revisioning schemas, you can have the system to be whichever works for you as far as revisioning and what you want to call them. So now this has been checked out. So let's do some changes to this particular part. The first thing I want to do here is, let's make this bigger. We'll make it 7 inches. That sounds good. There we go. Did I do it? Yep. We can save that. There we go. And the other thing I want to do, when we looked at the record card, we noticed that the user had not put in the material. Let's add some material to this. And we'll make it, that looks good, that's stainless. Okay, so we've added the material. Now, if we go to the record card here real quickly, you'll notice in the record card, there is different information. Again, this is configurable. But one of the things with many organizations is that when somebody keys in information or types in information onto the record card, they want it all to be in uppercase. Well, with the MechWorks PDM, what you can do, let's go back to lowercase here. If I go into this treatment and I key in, I don't know, zinc plate, you'll notice I key that in lowercase. But with the MechWorks PDM, this has been configured so that we require the record cards to have uppercase. So if I hit OK, that changed that to uppercase. Let's go back and look at that. You'll see now it's in uppercase. So this, again, is another way you can configure the system to make sure that the system is working exactly the way that you want it to work. Let's hit save. And let's close that. and we'll save it. So now if we go to the drawing real quick and look at it, and we go down to my title block down here, it has been configured so that certain information is automatically populated down here. You can see it added the material, it added that finish, and it's putting in the information as we need them on the system. All right, so let's just zoom back out again. The other thing you'll notice is as the user goes through doing the revisioning to this part in these drawings, it is automatically populating the revision table on this drawing template. So let's go back to this part here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to release it and approve it one more time here. So we'll go approve. This time we'll remember that we need to put this information in, so we can say made, let's see, what do I want to say here? Added finish, that'll do. We'll hit OK. So now again, what is going to happen here, you can see it added that to the drawing record card, and it's going to release this document. Now, you'll notice here that it's giving me a choice of sticking at the revision 01 or the revision 02. This is an option that you can set if you want your users to be able to do changes and not bump the revision. Obviously, there's times when you just have spelling mistakes or simple things, that just quickly need to be changed the way you don't want to bump that revision. So we're just going to hit 02, hit OK, and it's going to release it at revision 02. What it's doing each time it releases a drawing, this system has been configured for the users that it automatically creates a PDF at that revision of that drawing when it's released. Let's go in here and just do one more quick revision. So again, the user would come in here, increment the revision. It's going to give the user a choice to pick which revision it's going to go to. We're going to do another pre-release. Hit OK. It's going to check it out again for us. And this time we'll take this and we'll make that 1 inch. Looks good. I like that. And we'll hit save. There's 1 inch. And we'll go look at the drawing here. So you notice it automatically updated the drawing for you. The other thing we can do right now, you'll see that the description, here we go, for the part is set at this. But I can, if I go into the part, I can modify this. And when I change this property in the part, because it's automatically linked to the drawing, and if we hit save here, you'll notice that it automatically changed that property in the drawing. We are totally automatically linked together. All right, so let's go ahead and we will do one final approval on this particular document. There we go. O3, hit OK. And now that's going to go ahead and release this for us. It's going to create that PDF of the drawing, and it's letting us know that it's been released at revision 03. So the first thing I want to point out here is, as a user, I've sat here, I've created a new part. I've done 3 different revisions to that part. It's put all the relevant information on the drawing, and I haven't left SolidWorks or out of working in SolidWorks one time. Done it all here in SolidWorks. So now let's just close this. Here we go. And we'll close the part. There we go. And we'll go into the MechWorks browser. Now this is the MechWorks browser that you can see right now. And at first glance, you might think, what am I looking at? It's very simple, it's very graphical. It's laid out to present information to all the users very quickly and very easily. The first thing we'll look at over here is the project tree. Now the project tree is a way of presenting all the files that you have to the users and splitting them up into different projects. All a project is, it's a way, you could have a project for each customer, a project for each product. You could have a project that matches your folder systems. Right now with this, I have it so that we're just here in an area here of the different projects. And the project that I'm working in right now has this big red arrow next to it, showing you right here. So this is the project I'm working in. If I want to see all the projects, I could go over here and say, show selected projects only. I mean, don't show that. I switched that up. So now it's going to show you all the different projects are in here. Now this is just a simple collection of documents. It's nowhere near the amount of documents you would have within your organization. So it's probably not such a big deal for me as a user to just see the projects that I'm working in right now. But obviously, if you have lots and lots of documents and lots of projects, this is a great tool. Let's go back to show the selected projects only. So this is the one I'm working in, and this is the part that we just created. So the first thing on this tree to be noticed is that when I click on a document, it gives me a preview of it. In this particular case, this is an assembly, and down here in the document grid, it shows and presents the information of everything that this assembly is composed of. Just like if I go to the project, it's going to show me every document that is in that project. If a user goes to an individual assembly and clicks on a file or a part, and they go to use by, it is going to present the information to the user of everywhere this part is used. There's only one physical part, but that one physical part may be used in a variety of different projects and more than one assembly. The information is presented directly to the users so they can always see what's going on. So we've already noticed that this is an assembly from the icon. This is a part from its icon. You can also see that down here, I have an Excel file, and you can tell that from its icon down here. It's kind of hard to read here. So what MechWorks PDM has for the users is full preview. With full preview, it allows the user to actually read what's on that document without having to open up that document. Let's go back to the tree. You can also see, like, for instance, there's a Word document here. Again, it's kind of hard to read. If you go to full preview, you can see exactly what is in that document. It makes it easy to read it without opening up a document. Let's go back to the tree. So now the next thing the user needs to know is the state of each one of those documents. So the first state, let's go here, it's a red state. A red state means that somebody has ownership of that document. In this particular case, it's myself because I'm logged on as the user MechWorks. So I have ownership of this particular document. Doesn't necessarily mean I have it open and working on at that moment in time. If I did, you would actually see a darker color red here. So MechWorks will even show and provide that information to other users. The red circle here with a line through it is showing the user that somebody other than them has that document checked out. In this particular case, it's checked out to my evil twin, Glenn. So Glenn has this checked out, and I can open this, I can look at it, but I cannot change it because you don't want more than one person changing a document at the same time. The blue square is a document that is checked in. There's many reasons why you might want to have just a document checked in. You could be waiting to the assembly, everything in the assembly is done before you release it. It could be, as in the case of this file down here, it's in the middle of an approval process. When a document is in an approval process, one cannot do any life cycling to it. So that's another reason why it might be just checked in. It could be in your stock room, you have 2,000 of these, and you want to wait till you get down to 100. When it hits 100, it will automatically go ahead and release this for you. There's lots of reasons, obviously, why you might need to check something in. For instance, the beginning, I said I was going to win the lottery tonight, so I might check it in so somebody else can work on this because I'm not going to be here. The next colored square is the gold square. A gold square is a released document. And as I mentioned before, released could mean different things to different organizations. You could have whatever revisioning schema you need to have for your organization. There is a gray square. A gray square is an obsolete document. It's just there for referencing. So when a user sees this, they can use it for referencing, but they cannot life cycle. This document is no longer life cyclable. Finally, there is a green square, which is a new document. It is in the system, it is secure, it is safe, but it is not recording the history that is done as far as the changes go. If I open up this document, I do some changes to it, I save it, open it up again, change it and save it, it is only going to remember the last time I saved it, and nothing I did before that is not going to know. Some organizations like to use this. It's like playing in a sandbox, I believe the term is. And I personally think it's so us old guys can sit there and play with something and then finally release and say, look at that, I did it first time. I don't know. But it's there for organizations to use if they want to. The next thing on the tree one can notice is the visual cues. Visual cues are great. They visually present information to anybody who's allowed to and logs onto this system. They can get that information. For instance, this part here with a bolt through it is showing that this is a standard part. Only an administrative type or somebody who has privileges could change this part. It's a standard part. You don't want people changing it. The other thing a visual cue could be used for, if you notice, is a paper clip here. So it is showing that on this particular document, there is what's called an attachment. Remember, we created some attachments when we created, each time we released those drawings, it created a PDF. Well, they're an attachment to each one of those revisions of the drawing. So in this particular case, if I go to the attachments, you can see that for this document, it's giving the information on how to make that screw, what pitch it needs, what thickness, what diameters, all the information is there. This document, an attachment, is never life cycled. It's only there for information. So if later on somebody says, where did you get this information from? It's all there in those attachments. In the case of the document that we created before, if I go to the drawing, you can see it has the different releases as each time it created those PDFs as that drawing was released. So they're attachments. They're a great thing for either, that's what you have everybody outside of engineering to look at, or if you need to have a markup for a change, you can use that PDF. It has a lot of uses for doing that. So that's kind of real quickly going over the tree here. Everything is laid out in a hierarchical schema. It's very easy to see the information that you want people to see. MechWorks presents that information in a very clear and easy way. So we have some visual cues here that we didn't really talk about. For instance, this letter with an envelope or this Post-it note. These visual cues here are all to do with the engineering change utility process. Now, I'm not really going to go into a lot of detail on that today. There is another webinar just on the ECO process that takes an hour. So we don't have time today to go through all of it. But just real quickly, if I click on this part and down here in the document grid, there's a tab that says EC. And if you click on that, it's going to show you here some of the different types of engineering change forms that there are. For instance, this IR down here, and if we go down there and review it, it is going to be the data form for that first initial release to manufacturing. And the idea of these forms is that it's going to standardize your engineering changes for your organization, is going to give you a recordable history of the changes that you make. For instance, you're going to know from the description, from the ID number, from the documents that are associated with it, you're going to know who signed off the approval or the changes or the approval for those changes or that release. And all that is recorded information at the fingertips of whoever needs to get to it when they need to get to it. And real quickly, the way the system works is that you would have an IR, an initial release for the first time you release a document to manufacturing. Once it's in manufacturing, people with privileges can create an ECR, and you'll notice this Post-it note with a clip on it is showing that this document has an ECR attached to it. And then from an ECR, you can look at it, you can decide, go through an approval process, collect signatures. If it is approved and accepted, it automatically generates an ECO. The ECOs can sit there. This document has ECOs, and it has this icon here to show that this document has ECOs. So just by visually looking at the screen, you can see there's ECOs with this document, and they could stay just attached like sheets. But when it's time to incorporate those ECOs, then the system will automatically create, and I think I have one here, an ECN. And all of the forms for these, you'll notice, look very similar. So it's very easy for anybody in your organization, any user, to see what's going on with these forms. These forms are totally configurable to meet the needs of your organization. All right, so that's really what I'm going to cover on the ECOs. It's an ECR's engineering change because, as I said, there is another webinar that covers that. So now let's go back to the part that we originally created. So the first thing a user can do with this part, if I go over down to the document grid here and we click on previous revisions, it is going to show the users the previous revisions that have been done to this document. For instance, here's that initial design. Here's where we added the finish, increased the length. Here's where we changed the length back to 1 inch. So obviously, there are times when you may need to go back to some previous revisions. MechWorks makes it very easy for the users. For instance, if for this particular part, if I want to go back to what was designed and created in revision 02, I would just click on revision 02, right mouse click, and say activate, or I could say activate and create a new revision, which is probably the way I would go because, again, I want to have a history of all the changes that I've done or the users have done to this particular part. So let's select that. So the first thing it's going to ask the user is, you sure you want to do this? Well, yes. And then it's going to allow the user to pick what that next revision is going to be. It's going to be revision 04. I could have gone to revision A and it would be the same as revision 02. So now what it has done, it has checked this part out with the drawing for me. Now, if the user wanted to, they could open up that part and actually do some additional changes to it, but we just want to go back to that same revision 02. So now the user would just go in here and approve. Now we're going to need to put in the reason why we're doing this. There we go. Helps if I could type. And we'll hit OK. So now what the system is going to do for us is it's going to check that in at revision 04. It's going to ask me, yes, hit OK, and it's going to create the PDF at revision 04 for revision 04 of the drawing. There it goes. And you can see now it has the revision 04. So there's 04, there's 03, there's 02. You can see the descriptions and the reason why each change was done. It's going to be presented to everybody or all the users that need to get on here and see the information. We want to make it very visual and very easy for everybody to get the information that they need. All right, so the next thing we want to look at in the MechWorks browser is I have all these documents. How do I find one that I want to look at? For instance, I want to find a document in the -73 series. So I can go down here and go -73, hit the binoculars, and down here in the document grid, it is going to give me all the -73s. And I could sit here all day going, yes, no, no, yes, which is not great. So if I don't know the exact description or the exact part number, this is okay, but it's not the greatest way of a user to find the document they're looking for. So another way and a quicker way to narrow down your search and find the document you're looking for is for the user to use the advanced filter. Now with the advanced filter, let's get rid of these and we'll add some more in here. So with the advanced filter, the first thing the user can do, if they know which project they're looking in, they could select that project. If they know the type of the document, they could immediately narrow down the search to that type of document. We're going to leave it at all types. If they know the state of the document, whether it's been released, they know it's released or whatever, they could select that. We're just going to leave it at any. So the first thing I can do here as a user is add a condition. And this is going to be searching the database. This is a graphical way of actually using SQL because I don't want to use SQL. I just want it graphically presented to me so I can quickly and easily find what I'm looking for in the database. So the first thing I'm going to go in here is I could put in here in the ID, it contains that -73. That's 73 series, and do a search. And you can see I got exactly the same what I had before when I did it down here. So now I can start narrowing this down to look for exactly the part that I'm looking for. So I can add another condition here, and you can do and/ors. And for a start, I could go in here and I could say in the description, it starts with, and we'll key machined. There we go. And we do another search and narrowed it down a bit. I could go in here and say, I'm looking for a part and do a search. There we go, it narrowed it down some more. So you can see you can play with the different selections here to narrow down and get to the part or the assembly or whatever it is you're looking for very quickly. So the next thing I could go in here, say, let's add another condition here. And this time we'll say, you know what? I know what the material is. So the material is, and it's made out of brass. And we do the search. There we go, narrowed it down to 2 of them. So you can see how you can very quickly narrow it down and find the part you're looking for. Also, if you're using the category wizard that is automatically putting in the descriptions that you want, this also makes it very quick and very easy for the user to find the actual document they're looking for. Here it is, machine nut hex. It's easy, I found it. So, I could go in here and add another one just to make sure that I got the one I want. And I could say in the description, contains nut. Do a search. And then I'm down to this one, and this is probably the one I'm looking for. So you can quickly add the different conditions and find the exact document you're looking for. Now, when I work with my tech guys, they can do the same thing in here in the query tab. So this is a way of also quickly finding documents by using SQL. It's not quick for me because I want it all to be visual and presented to me without me having to think. But with these queries that you can create in the query tab, if there are certain reports or certain information that you use as an organization, you can go into the query tab. You can create the query that you want, and I could hit OK here. And actually what this is giving me here is the documents that I released today. So this query can be, if I go back to the tree over here, and we go into the shortcut menu over there's an event, and where in here it says last day release docs, I can go there and get that information. So as a user, I don't want to key this in. I want the information presented to me clearly and quickly. So that's what the event is, and that's the advantage of having the query in here. Now, I just mentioned the shortcut menu over here, and really what this is, these are different tools that some of them the users would see and use, and some of them are just administrative. For instance, if I go to tool setup here, you can see there's tools in here for the administrator, defining a revisioning schema, registering documents into the database, building your bill of material formats and types, what information you want to have on each bill of material type that you're going to kick out. So there are tools in here for the administrator. For instance, down here, the automatic numbering. Some of these are administrative. Some of these are, for instance, in the EC one, finding engineering changes. So there are tools in here that are very useful for both the users and for the administrators. The one we're going to look at right now is the one up here that says wizards. What this is an assembly duplication wizard. With this, a user can go in there, pick an existing assembly, and quickly make another assembly that's identical to it, but it's going to have a new bunch of ID numbers. Perhaps some parts are going to be changed, some parts are not. So for instance, if we go to this assembly here, and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to recreate this, I'm going to make this product, but I'm going to do some changes on some of the parts. Some of the parts I'm not. So the parts that I'm not going to change, I want them to keep the same part numbers they had, because I don't really want to have the same part with more than one part number. So I could go down to here as a user and I could say, okay, this is going to have a new part number. This is, we'll say that and that. We'll just pick a few. And we'll go to the assembly duplication wizard. The user would click on that and it's going to present this data form for them to use. Now this is just a way to set the criteria on how you want to copy that assembly and create the new one. So for instance, how you want to name it. So before I had 999, maybe, which is customer 999. This is for customer 549, say. Other quick things you can do in here, you can decide whether you want the drawings to come across or just the first sheets of the drawings. You could use this as a rename, so you could take that original assembly and just give all the parts in the assembly a new, part number. You can do that all in one go. There's a variety of different options that you can set with this. But I'm just going to go in here right now and I'm going to say, let's simulate what I'm going to get from the selection I've made on this form. And you can see the ones here in blue are going to get the new part numbers. The ones that are not blue would keep the same part numbers because you're not going to change those. Or the user could go in here and say, you know what, just give me new part numbers for everything. So it's going to go ahead and do that. There we go. So it simulated that. So now you'll notice also here, you can select which project you're going to put this new copy with the new part numbers into. And I'm going to put it in the same one I've been working in right now. So I'm going to say, okay, go ahead and duplicate that. So now what MechWorks PDM is going to do is going to go in there, it's going to create the new assembly and parts from the old assembly. It's going to let the user know if there were some components it couldn't duplicate, couldn't give new part numbers to. Perhaps they're standard parts. Rules won't allow you to give them new part numbers. It would let the user know if there were some components that weren't selected that it needs to keep the correct relationship with that assembly. And he's going to create those, register them into the database, open them up into SolidWorks for the user so they can go ahead and do whatever they need to do with that assembly. And we're just waiting for it to finish here. There we go, registration complete. So it finished registering them. It's checking the parent-child relationships. It's finished. So let's hit exit. And let's close the browser. There we go. So here is that new assembly that it just recreated for us. Here it is. So it has that new part numbers in there and it's all shiny new, created for the users. So now a user might decide, I need to create the drawing for this assembly. So just like with the part and that you would normally do with SolidWorks, the user would go up to File, make a drawing from the assembly, pick the template that they want. Again, these are configurable to have the properties automatically populate the areas you want them to on that template. We'll hit OK. And we'll just drop something into it, make it look, just have something in there. Let's change the scale. There we go, and we can move that up to there a bit. Looks good. And hit save. Now remember, when I hit save on the drawing, it is automatically linked to the assembly. So it's going to populate the record card for me, give it the same description, the same ID as the assembly. Let's hit OK. So that's saving that for us. There, saved. Now the next thing a user might want to do is add the bill of material to this drawing. Now normally, obviously with your drawings, you probably have your bill of materials that are anchored in a certain location on all your drawings. This template doesn't have that, so I'm just going to drop the bill of material in there. So we'll select Insert Bill of Material. We're going to select the drawing view. There we go. And over here it says the bill of material template. With the MechWorks PDM, you can obviously have different bill of material templates that are going to present different information based on the department or the area that this needs to go to for those people to view it and look at it. We're going to use this simple one here and hit OK. There we go. And it just dropped it in here. And while we're here, let's just click on that. Let's add my border back in. There we go. My grid. It's good. And we can move it down a bit, say to here. And we'll hit save. So now we have a drawing with a bill of material on it. There we go. So here's the assembly. Here's the drawing for it. Here's all the parts that go into that assembly. So let's zoom in on this bill of material. There it is. So now that you have this bill of material, and MechWorks PDM pulled that information from the assembly and we put it onto the drawing here. Now a user can manipulate and do what they need to do that's logical for this bill of material. For instance, this has two blades that rub up against each other. We want to put some grease in to the bill of material. So we just go here, and you'll notice there's bill of material down here, and we can hit create a new BOM item. So it's quite simple. I can go in here as a user and key in, so I could type again, grease, and we'll hit OK. It's going to open up a record card for that grease, which is a phantom part. It's not really on the assembly, but I want it on my bill of material. And we'll hit OK. You'll notice that immediately on this list over here, let's move this out a bit. Here we go. It has added the grease here, and it's highlighted it in this salmon color to show that this is not really part of the SolidWorks assembly, but I want it there for my bill of material. And let's just zoom back in here so we can see it. There we go. Let's save that. And let's refresh. And let's zoom back in. There we go. It added the grease into that. The other things you can do with this bill of material is perhaps some of these parts, even though in SolidWorks they only have the quantity of 1 or whatever, you might want to change that quantity. So for some crazy reason, I want to go into this motor here, and we will go to the bill of material, and we're going to change the quantity. So instead of 1 of those, I want 3 motors on the bill of material. I hit OK. So now what that would do for us, where are we? We hit refresh. We should save it first, I suppose. There we go. It added the 3 into this quantity. It's kind of hard to see it there. Let's zoom in so we can see that. It changed the motor quantity to 3. Also over here, you'll notice that it changed it to 3 with a salmon color around it. So again, this is really phantom. I just want 3 on my bill of material. Now the next thing with the bill of materials that is very important, if we go back here and we go to edit bill of material, you'll notice there's a column here that says buy. This is a great tool. This makes the difference with your bill of material. With this, I can control whether I make a part or whether I buy the part. If I want a part to be on the bill of material or not to be on the bill of material. There's a couple here that says BOM group, BOM not expand. What that is that if you have a sub-assembly, and let's go back to the MechWorks browser here, and where are we? Down here, here we go. I have an assembly here, and we expand this. You can see this is an assembly with a sub-assembly. So, and you'll notice I can do this from the MechWorks browser because the document is checked out. So you could do this from the integrated license, or you could do it from a standalone license. But I can go into here if I have the privileges, and if we go down to the bill of material and we build the bill of material for this assembly with a sub-assembly in it, you can see that it has all the different parts in it. So this has all the parts from that top assembly and all the parts in here from the sub-assembly. They're all on the one bill of material. That's where they want them all. It's the right blade, the knife sleeve, everything's in there. Now it could be that the sub-assembly here, which is that knife which has been attached to this other assembly, is already ordered in a different bill of material, and you don't want it to be on this top assembly. So what you could do is you just go to the bill of material, the top bill of material, you edit it, you find that knife, and in here you would go no expand, which is saying I still want this knife mechanism, this sub-assembly on here, but I don't want all the parts to go with it, because really I'm going to buy, as far as this assembly, this bill of material is concerned, in this assembly, I'm kind of putting that knife in as a completed element. Hit OK. and we'll hit OK. And now when the user goes in here and looks at that bill of material and builds it, you'll notice that it just has what's in this top assembly with just showing that sub-assembly. These are very important tools, especially if you want to integrate with an ERP, SAP, MRP, and share information between them and between the two products as far as the bill of material goes. We're just generally having full control over your bill of materials. It allows the users to fully control how they're using the bill of materials. All right, so let's go back to this assembly. So I have the assembly, and here we go. I have the bill of material done. I'm doing whatever I need to do to it. So one of the things that's very important, obviously, is that I'm inside of SolidWorks, and I don't want to get out of SolidWorks. I don't want to think about anything else. And even though we're seamlessly integrated with the ribbon up here, and over here in the task plane, we have the MechWorks PDM, and over here we have MechWorks PDM. I want to quickly find different parts or different sub-assemblies and everything else. So for instance, on this sleeve here, say I have this sleeve. Which one is it? Here we go. It's the, oh, which one should we change? Say this one. There it is. So we'll open this up and we'll do a change to it. So real quickly, I'm a user, I go in here and I do a bunch of changes to this part. I don't know, we just cut a hole in it just to make it look different. There we go, cut it through. That looks good. There we go, I cut a hole in it. So as a user, I can see the blade going backwards and forwards. That's great. So now if I go back to the main assembly here, and we'll open this up, you can see now there's a hole cutting here. So it could be a whole bunch of changes that somebody has done to this part on this assembly. And you think, well, I don't want to go backwards, but I know I have some of those exactly the same. I mean, I copied this assembly from another one. So you can quickly, while you're sitting here in SolidWorks, and do a search for others of this kind. So I could go in here and go left, knife, hit the binoculars, and it'll show me all the others that I have in here. So I can go down here, find the one I want, which could be this one. I say, okay, what I want to do is take this one and replace them. And it'll say to the user, do you want to replace that with that? And you say yes, and it'll replace it. Now this could be you're replacing it with another part, you're replacing it with a sub-assembly, whatever you need. It's just a quick way of finding the parts that you want or the documents that you want and replacing them. The other thing is you're building an assembly. Perhaps you want to build it up and you want to find the nuts that you have, do a search, find a nut and drag it and drop it in. Obviously this is ridiculously scaled, but you get the idea how you could go in here and build up and put in the different parts and build the assembly that way. So that's quickly going through the assembly duplication, the bill of materials, and manipulating and working in your assemblies. So let's close this for a minute. There we go. And we'll close that part. We don't want to save that. Nope. There we go. And we'll close the drawing. All right, so let's go back to the MechWorks browser. So the next thing I want to look at here is if you have this time, we already looked at how by using the assembly duplication wizard, you could rename the assembly and all the parts in there all in real quickly in one go. But you may have the occasion where you have a part, and let's pick this one. So I have this part down here and I want to rename it. Now, obviously, if the part is checked out, I can rename it. So I can just go over here, pick rename, there it is. And now the user has a choice to the new numbering that they may want to have. And we're going to change this from the -73 series over here until for customer 789. We'll hit OK. So then it's going to give me the save wizard. So this is a machine nut hex. Okay. So you'll see here that this number is 6661-73, and I hit yes. And then for the user, it will change that number to the new number that you want it to have. So you can rename the individual parts very easy and very quickly. Now, there are other times when you might have different parts that are not normally associated with each other, not part of an assembly, so they don't have a relationship with each other, but you want them to have one. So for instance, we could say this part that we just changed the number on, and this one, and this one. And now what the user can do is go right mouse click and pick working set. So a working set can link those 4 documents or whatever documents you have together to use as a working set, so you can do the change to all of them one time. So let's create that working set. It put it over here into the document grid. It presented the information to the user, what is in this working set. So I can go into here, right mouse click, go to the record card, pick notes, and then I could key in here, I don't know, all together now. That's good. And we'll hit OK. And it's going to ask the user, you sure you want to do this, because it's going to be done to all of them? And we can say yes. So that will go through and change that note on all 4 of those parts. But if I go down here to the bottom one, even though we did it to the top one, and we look at the notes in here, you'll notice it put it in there for you. So working set is another great tool that we offer. Now you've seen, as we've gone through, each time a user is trying to get information, for instance, if you go into here, it's presenting information on the EC and, used by and whatever. It's presenting that information to the users as you go through. So as you gain information, it's presented in here. MechWorks PDM allows the users to go in here and say, you know what, I want to take this, and I can go Control C and copy that whole grid out to an Excel file. Real easy. I just go into here, and I can go over here. Let's open up Excel, and I can cut and paste whatever's in that document grid into an Excel document. Just go into here, hit Control V, and that'll place that in there for me. So it's a very quick way of pulling information out of the MechWorks PDM and using it every way you need to use it. Also with the Excel, if we go back real quick to a bill of material, we go to the bill of materials that are in here, I can go, or a user can go down here and create an Excel bill of material at any time they need to do it. And they could let's pick a different template than we used last time. And that will go in there and can kick out an Excel file that way. MechWorks PDM allows users to quickly push information out of the system to the different areas and the different manners and forms that you need. See, it just quickly created that PDF, that Excel file for us. All right, so real quickly, because I'm kind of running out of time here, probably gone over time. The final thing I just want to quickly look at here and talk about very quickly, because again, there is a separate webinar on the configurations, is configurations. MechWorks PDM can control and handle configurations. So for instance, if I click on this document here, I can go in here, we get a preview of it. And if we move this over a bit, there we go. I can show used by, and this part is used by this, but when I click on this part, if I go to configurations, it will show the user what configurations are associated with this part here. Not only that, it will show you the revision of the configuration. It will show you the individual configurations revision of the last time it was changed. And you can control all this information that you need to do with the configurations. You can control what can be changed between them, what cannot be changed. So for instance, between each of these three configurations, you might allow them to change the material or not change the material. As a user, you have control over what you allow and not allow with configurations. Also, when you create configurations, MechWorks PDM allows you to configure it so that when you create a configuration, it can have a record card or not have a record card. For instance, you might create a configuration, say for sheet metal, just to show what it looks like when it's flat, but you don't want a record for that. MechWorks PDM allows you to do that. Okay, so I think that's all I want to go with there. So let's move this out the way, and we'll go back to our PowerPoint. So real quickly, to talk about our tech support, they're great tech support. PDM is what we do. It is our total focus. Our tech support staff, they've had years of training and knowledge on PDM and the CAD systems. The training covers the MechWorks PDM. It covers the variety of different CAD systems that we're integrated with. It covers MicroSQL, the .NET, the operating systems. It covers the full spectrum of the knowledge that they need. We have tech support offices across the United States, which gives several different time zones, which is great for any organization. We look at all our customers as partners. So we want to make sure that we pass on our knowledge to our customers. We want our customers to be able to do everything they can by themselves without having to come back to us and go, how do I do this? We want them to be successful and fully understand our product. Obviously, our clear goal is to accelerate your design cycle, give you a secure environment that is going to promote design integrity and help you become totally successful with your document management needs. So what do we do today? Real quick, we created a new part. We looked at the automatic numbering. We put that part through revision and control, life cycling. We looked at the engineering changes real quick. Remember, we have a separate webinar for that. We looked at the document relationships, how we automatically link data and documents together. We looked at outputs, how the system can be configured to automatically kick out PDFs, DXF, whatever types by triggers. We looked at the MechWorks browser, how easy it is to present the information to all of your users, how easy it is to find existing documents with the search tools, the bill of materials, how we inherit the information from SolidWorks and then make it efficient in allowing you to have the information on those bill of materials that you really need, how the bill of materials can be controlled and used on the integrated license as well as the standalone licenses. Visual cues, they're a great tool. Visually presenting information to all of your users. A simple one would be, say you have to meet RoHS. In RoHS, you have to have some way to show all your users that this part could have lead or mercury in it, don't lick it. Visual cues, great tool for that. Configurations, just touched them lightly, but we can fully control all your configurations, have sub-revisions on them and fully control them. Remember, we are a PDM company, not a CAD company. PDM is all we do. We have partnerships and working relationships with all the CAD companies that we're integrated with. So we don't have to de-engineer anybody's CAD system. We have the relationship with SolidWorks, with Inventor, with Solid Edge, the AutoCAD, SpaceClaim, ME10. We have relationships with all of those, also the Microsoft Office stuff. We can have our software ready to go when they come out with new releases. I want to thank you for your time today. We went over a lot of stuff. I'm sure you probably have some questions when you have time to think about it. Please let us know. You can give us a call at 1-800-573-6183. You can go to our webpage, find out information there. You could email us. If you're an existing customer and you're going to some of these webinars, contact our tech support. Give us a call, let us know. If you need to have a webinar for your organization just to look at the way you do things and let all your guys there look at it, we can set those up for you. So again, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us so we can answer them for you. Thank you. Goodbye.